replace resentment with hope, respect the rights of their citizens and their neighbors, and join the fight against terror. You remember that, Ed? We were bringing Middle East. We were bringing democracy to the Middle East. We were bringing, all this type of American values to the Middle East. And maybe all it needs is some deals. And that's what Donald Trump is seeking to do. What do you think about this? We'll get to this and more. Feel free to join the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line, 720-819-5115. Now it's time for your Friday morning dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday, 51 or 2, and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 71 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear.
Oh, how cute. The big boob. The stiff former FBI liar James Comey was strolling along the beach when he saw this cute little message laid out with seashells, and it said 8647. That means kill 47, the president. DJT, he's not happy. And the former FBI director, Comey, he knows exactly what all that stuff meant. Here's DJT.
Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he wasn't calling for violence. But
look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency, but I'm going to let them make that decision.
Now, General Flynn said months ago on Benny Johnson that Comey tried to have him killed. He damn near ruined him, and Flynn says that this is what the dirtbag community led by guys like Comey discuss all the time.
I mean, these people, I know that they talk about these things. So there's a group of people that talk, they discuss this because it's like, what do we want to do? We can destroy this guy, and then all of a sudden I start to fight back. We started to fight back, and I completely changed my whole I changed my legal team, I changed our strategy, huge gamble. And we started to fight back, and when we did, we started winning.
And does Tulsi Gabbard think he should go to jail, Comey?
I do. Any other person with a position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be, I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life, and James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
And the best advice for this fraud, Comey?
Yes, and for Jim Comey, start measuring yourself there, buddy. I know you're kind of a tall guy. So, go to a tall man's shop, send your measurements over to the Bureau of Prisons because it's coming.
We haven't seen a lot of FBI Director Kash Patel on this morning, along with Dan Bongino on Fox, says the FBI is moving out of the J. Edgar Hoover building in D.C.
Look, the FBI is 38,000 when we're fully manned, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime, and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. And that's what we're doing. In the next 3, 6, 9 months, we're going to do that hard. And, you know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce.
Wow. All right, the Nuggets were facing elimination last night in the second round of the playoffs.
Strother staying in the game. He had 8 points there off the bench. Had 9 in a game in this playoffs. Three-pointer from Jamal Murray goes down. He's got 25. Denver has its largest lead.
Murray was sick and still scored 25. Jokic scored 27. Julian Strother off the bench with 15. They needed that. 119-104, Game 7, Sunday in Oklahoma City. 50 in Aurora, 49 in Englewood, 51 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A quiet day along the Front Range will make the low to mid-70s and partly cloudy, mid to upper 40s tonight. 70s on Saturday with not many, but Saturday afternoon and evening, a few widely scattered thunderstorms possible. Lower 70s Sunday with thunderstorm chances much higher. Sunday afternoon and evening and Sunday night. Highs low 70s, 40s Sunday night, cooler Monday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 60s. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Some great text messages on the conversation we had in the last hour about T-shirts.
Yes, T-shirts.
That you're required to wear now at Starbucks. You got to wear a black shirt, and a bunch of whiny baristas are protesting it. But we have worked out a deal with Starbucks.
Yes, we have.
So
at
if
least as far as you know. Yes.
Are a barista concerned about what you can wear in your job, well, you have at least 2 additional options.
Yes, you do, and they can be found at kyleskarens.com. Yes, this is all inspired by you, our listeners. A few months ago, we did a poll online about what should you call the fans of a certain evening news broadcast, because every time on social media that Jeff mentioned or even cast shadows in that show's direction, it was as if Sauron has released the army of orcs from Mordor. All of a sudden the call went out, and raw. They come from the depths of the earth. And they went after Jeff hard. And, you know, as every large fan base,
hard
we know.
Is like,
yes.
Like puppies. Hard, right? Like you're like, oh, that's cute.
Oh yeah, I know they weren't. The thing is, they weren't necessarily mean, but they like piled on. It was just like a blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, and so it was adorable. But all good fan bases need to have a nickname. Taylor Swift has the Swifties. Jimmy Buffett, they've got the Parrot Heads. So what do we do? Biebers or Beliebers? Now this is such a large fan base. You know, this isn't like guys just listening to the dude at the coffee shop playing his guitar as you're protesting over your Starbucks uniform. This is a solid fan base, and they needed a name. So you, our listeners, came forward with a name. Decided to name them Kyle's Karens. And we said if you crossed a threshold and we got a number of votes, we'd make the T-shirts. Now, it's taken a little while, but they are now available to purchase at kyleskarens.com. $25. kyleskarens.com. Check it out. You can choose red or blue. It's not just about making fun of a show or a TV broadcaster. This is about showing your fandom of either side. You can be a fan. That's perfectly fine of a particular show and a broadcast and a sport coat wearing news broadcaster. That's wonderful. We have a perfect option for you. Custom made, professionally designed T-shirt. But if that's not your flavor, we've got another T-shirt for you as well. So, and on those T-shirts, you know, because all good, strong newscasters wear a sport coat on air, you've got the appearance of a lapel on your T-shirt. And there might be a number on the lapel on one side. Maybe. I don't know. You can take a look. Also, it does say that it announces your membership, that you are either proudly a member of Kyle's Karens or proudly not a member of Kyle's Karens. And of course, thematically, you do have the appropriate color, either red or blue. And you know which side you're on. But again, this is Colorado. It's time to pick sides. Either you're a fan of that TV show or you're not a Karen. So pick a side. Check us out at kyleskarens.com. kyleskarens.com. These T-shirts are only available for 3 weeks. Yes, 3 weeks from today, they go poof, never to be printed again. We have sworn to secrecy, and they've said they've got to destroy the proofs. So these things go away. You will never be able to get your hands on these T-shirts again. This is a one-time shot. Buy as many as you want and buy them for your friends.
And we need your help here, okay? Because you know right now that Kyle's trying to ignore this.
Yes, absolutely.
He does not want this little ribbing to get any type of momentum.
Yes, or be seen often in public.
That is exactly my point.
That's the issue.
Please buy enough of these so that when he goes out to the Great American Beer Festival or to a Nuggets game, he can't go out anywhere in the city of Denver without running into somebody wearing either I'm a member of Kyle's Karens or I am not a member of Kyle's Karens.
And again, you like him? Buy the one that supports him.
And then
show
get a
him the love.
With him,
yes. Show him the love. That's the thing is if you want to say this is the absolute best news broadcast in the city, we have an option for you to show how much you love this. It would be great to see the next time that he has a public appearance to have half of the group assembled to be wearing the T-shirts that support Kyle's Karens. That would be wonderful.
And if you're a teacher, when he comes and does those school visits, like Yodi. I'm a very popular newscaster in Colorado. He has to deal with teachers wearing. Dude, Jason is killing me this morning.
Yeah, what's he got?
Jason's text. Kyle's Karen sounds like an escort company.
That's very funny. That is really, really good. And there's so many things that are into my mind right now that I cannot say on the air because Kelly's down the hall and I will get in trouble. And I will not be able to
Could you
be on the air in the
imagine
next
if an
broadcast.
escort company bought all these T-shirts and wore them?
Oh, that would be funny. That would be hilarious. that would be really funny.
KylesKarens.com. Flood the city.
3-week run. That's it. After that, they go away. So, proudly declare your side. And again, we're not taking sides on one or the other. You can choose whichever T-shirt is best. Oh,
I've already bought my shirt.
Oh, yeah. I've got a couple as well. So that's the thing is I've got mine. They're coming to me. But again, you've got someone in your family that is a fan. You like that flavor of news broadcasting, go right ahead. Proudly declare your allegiance. We are not going to take sides on this one. We have our own personal opinions, but you, just like the basically the theme inside of the show, make your own choice. Choose what you think is best for you and your friends. And if you have someone in your family that you know loves what they see on that particular TV broadcast, get them the shirt. Help them celebrate. How nice would it be to see their eyes light up during the birthday, the graduation celebration, or even thinking ahead to Christmas? These are perfect stocking stuffers. You can't get a whole lot of other stuffing. Take up the whole stocking. Great stocking stuffers. Plan ahead. You can get all that shopping done now.
3 weeks done today.
Yep, so 3 weeks, and then they're gone. So you can't come back to us around Christmas and go, can I get the T-shirt? No, we're not going to be able to print them again. We have been sworn to secrecy and silence by the company. They're like, we cannot be held responsible for this past this printing. We are destroying all the evidence. That's it.
We're trying to get it in today because there may be a cease and desist.
Yes, there might be. Yes.
At that point, we got to
kind of dancing around that there may be some legal action being taken, and so there's a limited time. So, the quicker you order, the more you're guaranteed to have your shirt, because once we get the letter, we got to stop printing them. So you need your printing now. You got to get them in today.
Well, there may be division over Kyle Clark.
Yes,
there is not division over the great work that the people of the Colorado Farm Bureau are doing to implement good water policy out there. So whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last year, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. And I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture always have conservation, efficiency, and reuse top of mind when it comes to water use. As the metro area continues to grow, Colorado Farm Bureau leads talks with state policymakers about preserving water for all areas of the state as pressure on the water system grows. It's going to take all of us to find a solution. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them today. All right, so I'm fascinated by this bill because I was in college, grad school, all around the run-up to the war in Iraq. I lost a childhood friend in Iraq fighting on behalf of the U.S. Marines. And I'm fascinated by the billions of dollars we spent in a region that looks really no different than when we left.
Yeah.
Before we got there. And so here's some of what Trump was able to get during this trip. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, okay? Deals. $600 billion investment commitment from Saudi Arabia to the United States over the next 4 years, focusing on sectors like energy, defense, and technology. Defense and technology deals, $142 billion arms deal, touted as the largest defense sales agreement in history. Additionally, U.S. tech companies like NVIDIA and AMD announced significant partnerships with Saudi AI initiatives. They talked about the Crown Prince and Trump met together, emphasizing transactional diplomatic approach and discussing regional security concerns. On his trip to Qatar, it was the very first U.S. president to ever visit the official state of Qatar. They eked out a Boeing aircraft deal. Qatar Airways signed an agreement to purchase 210 Boeing jets, making the largest order in the company's history. The United States and Qatar finalized a multi-billion-dollar deal, including a $10 billion defense agreement and significant investments in infrastructure projects. In the United Arab Emirates, the U.S. Department of Commerce announced a partnership with the UAE and an AI firm in the United Arab Emirates, G42, to establish the largest AI data center outside of the United States in Abu Dhabi. Trump was awarded the Order of Zayed, the UAE's highest civilian decoration, recognizing his efforts to strengthen U.S.-UAE relations. So the folks over at the Free Press picked up on this. Trump is rejecting the idea shared by Obama and Bush that a Western-style liberal democracy was essential to human flourishing in the Middle East. In Trump's view, it can be achieved through success, security, stability, respect for a nation's sovereignty, and a culture even where it differs from ours. And above all, a disgust for regime change wars that promise freedom and deliver death and destruction. Trump saying, in recent years, far too many American presidents have been afflicted with this notion that it is our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. That's what I really want to do. So, Bill, I'm thinking so deeply about this because of what our country did under Bush and Obama, the billions of dollars spent in Afghanistan and Iraq, my belief that Islam is a false religion that results in human suffering. But at the same time, I'm often brought to these kind of like multi-faith things, kind of in my roles, particularly at the Centennial Institute. I was brought to these a lot. And I gave a speech one time down at the state capitol with religious leaders going, look, we've got to find ways to be able to live together in the midst of our deepest differences. So, you can kind of end up in this like kumbaya. Well, we're all human beings at the end of the day. We need to learn to love each other. And I'm like, yeah, but we have very significant differences. We need to be able to just live comfortably in those differences and move forward together in what's the best interest for all of us. So is Donald Trump doing that? And are we going to end up with more peace, less bloodshed? Because we tried to do the Bush-Obama way of bring democracy towards the Middle East, and I think it was a total failure. I'm not sure. Clearly, Afghanistan and Iraq aren't more democratic today. So is Donald Trump right here? Or is he missing some big issues? What do you think?
I worry how close we like to get with the members of the Middle East, because I believe that at the core, at least right now, that we can't 100% trust them, because they also view, despite a lot of the lip service, they still view the existence of Israel as something that should not be there in the region. Now, regardless of what they say publicly, if Israel just disappeared, we are in an alternate timeline, and Israel doesn't exist in that version of Earth, in the multiverse, they would be much happier with that version than what we have now. I do believe there are some Middle East countries that will allow Israel to exist, that they will at least say that they're not happy about it, but they will allow it. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm also worried about the fact that the Saudi Arabians, in my opinion, were deeply, deeply involved in 9/11. And we cozy up to them as close as we possibly can, but that's because of oil. And so this is a transactional relationship. And I know that everybody listening to the show is not a fan of green energy, but as I've talked about, my push for green energy in America is simply because it is our FU card to the Middle East and to OPEC. It allows us more independence on our own energy production, and it means we are less dependent on them manipulating the cost of a barrel of oil. And that's very, very important to me. I'm not saying that we would ever stop pulling oil or gas out of the ground, nor should we look at destroying the American oil and gas industry. No, I want to give us the power and the leverage to play in the market like OPEC does. That's my stated goal, and I think green energy gives us the independence to play more in the market. It worries me when we heard the statement from Donald Trump earlier talking about the Middle East having the best oil on the planet. Hang on. Do the oil and gas companies here in America know about that? And the one of these that really worries me, the entire trip that he ran through, is the one to Qatar, Qatar. However we want to talk it this morning, I'll probably pronounce it both different ways. I don't like that nation per se. I don't trust them at all. And this isn't necessarily just about politics. This is about how that country's built. And understand, I'm coming at this, and allow me just a little bit of space to explain this, how it relates to international soccer. They recently held the World Cup. They bought the World Cup. It is settled. They bribed their way to get the World Cup. They paid so much money that they moved the World Cup from summer to winter because otherwise people would have died. Yes. So they moved it, and during the building of it, hundreds and hundreds of migrant workers were killed because they operate in what is basically a slavery state. That these people are taken from other countries and forced to work. There's a story of a kid who was in Africa who was offered a soccer scholarship in Qatar, or Qatar, however you want to pronounce it. And that he was going to go there with he and his friend, and they were going to be part of this developmental team because Saudi Arabia is starting their own soccer league, and this was going to be part of the developmental league, and it was going to work. And they showed up, and they were then told, nope, you're now building this soccer stadium. They were locked inside of a shipping container at night. They had no personal freedom. His friend eventually died during the building of this. They weren't construction workers, nor did it matter what skills they had, but they were forced into it with slave labor. And the kid was not allowed to go home, and eventually he escaped, and that's how the story got out. So that's the state. And we're signing a defense bill with them, and they are an ally of Iran. They are a stated ally of Iran, and they have funneled millions of dollars to Hamas.
So, but Bill, we're
That's
at a
scary
point, and if you remember 2003-ish, the belief was, and I believed in this pretty passionately. I remember writing articles in my student newspaper about it, that if we just give the people of Iraq a chance, if they could just have a little bit of a democracy, then it will open up opportunities that we could never imagine at this point. Afghanistan, little girls are going to school, and we're going to educate them for the first time. Opportunities going to open for them. We spent billions of dollars, the blood of our sons and daughters, and got none of that. The minute we left, they kicked all the girls back out. So what do you do with these countries then? I mean, I'm sympathetic too to the argument that we tried to bring economic freedom to China. They're just as communist as they've always been. In fact, they have brought that communist influence all over the world because of the economic relationship we had with China.
I disagree with you on communist being that China is as communist as they've always been. Their markets are more open, and they've got more influences on capitalism than they've ever had before, and they have more millionaires and billionaires. And Xi has to walk a more careful line politically, I believe, than his predecessors did, in part because of the markets. And I think, and this is the weird part about it, is I don't think it's because Xi is a fan of capitalism, but he understands that if he starts more of a central planning idea, meaning this is how many cars you can produce, this is how many shoes you can produce, this is the only type of bread you can produce, like in North Korea, these are the only 4 haircuts you're allowed. So it hurts the economic engine inside of China.
Are you saying, though, that maybe these deals are going to work out well in advancing America's values in the Middle East?
What worries me is that these deals are centered around, most of the time, military contracts. And that these are countries that at the core, I don't 100% trust, yet we are selling them our military production. And what I'm saying by that is this defense contract we have with Qatar, let's say that it involves some of our weaponry systems. It's not out of the realm of possibility for them. I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia. I'm not talking about UAE. But specifically Qatar, that is a stated ally of Iran, to hand them one of our systems and say, go retrofit it. Go take it apart.
There's plenty of times in America's history where we've had to fight against the very weepons we gave to somebody at some point.
Exactly.
So Afghanistan being a perfect example of that.
110% of that, and that's what I'm worried about.
So what do you do then? Do you obviously the promotion of democracy via a gun didn't work.
No, that doesn't work.
You can try to isolate, which, I'm not sure that. I mean, that tends to seem to push them into the arms of Iran and China and Russia. Or do you try to work out deals, but are these deals going to result in us just having to fight the same weapons that we're selling to them today?
The thing for me and I think, and this is the problem, and I don't think... This is the thing, is if I was in charge, this is the direction I would go. But the one, they'll never let me be in charge, and that's a good idea. 2, I don't think that it will have the economic benefit that it could by selling them weapons. I'm not selling them weapons or defense stuff. I know they'd get it somewhere else, but I would look at the idea of opening the markets for more consumer goods. I would go after the idea that I need them to trade with America, and I need to put more American stuff there. I need to get them in Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar. I need them wearing a lot more Levi's. I need them making sure that they're always listening to our music. I need them to be watching our movies. I understand that we even do that with China, and sometimes we acquiesce to some of their demands about stupid stuff inside the movies. I need them to be influenced that way. I need them to drive more American cars. I need them to be looking at that representing themselves more in the ideals of, hey, I'm dressing and acting like an American. I think that is our biggest export, our biggest advantage in this country. If we want to affect political change, and this sounds really weird, I think our biggest arm of soft power is our culture. I think that's what we need to lean into is I would be looking at exporting our culture into their understanding that there are some constraints, but I think that's the soft power. It worries me when I'm giving people that are potentially our enemies our weapons. That really worries me at the core. But again, I shouldn't be in charge.
Well, the defense industry will sure like it. All right.
Yeah, they will. Yeah.
Want to get into this. We'll continue. But give us a call if you'd like to join the conversation. Donald Trump saying it's not our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. I believe it's God's job to sit in judgment. My job to defend America and to promote fundamental interests of stability, prosperity, and peace. This is a fundamental pivot, folks, from the Bush, Obama, Biden era of driving democracy in the Middle East in an effort to modernize our relationship there. What's the best direction?
I got a question.
Which one would you support? Go ahead, Bill.
But here's the one that I asked. Jeff's going to ask you some questions here. Question I've got is, if you believe that Donald Trump is going this direction, should he also use the same approach dealing with China and North Korea?
Exactly. Good question.
How many F-18s should we sell to China? How many?
It's not his job to look into their souls.
Not at all.
And judge them.
No. And if this is a business relationship and creates peace, why not sell them our military technology?
303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. All right. It's springtime in the Rockies. That means hot during the day, cold at night, bouncing back and forth. Your furnace and AC both working. Are they up to tune? Are they ready to get you through a hot summer? Well, ours broke down last summer, and believe me, not having one made the summer a lot more complicated. So get a good air conditioner and furnace. We went out there and researched a number of different companies. The one we chose and are thrilled to have in our home, L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Personal service, start to finish. They followed up to make sure everything was great. It was a one-day installation, really no stress whatsoever. Here's some of their deals right now. A free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. I love my little programmable thermostat because it connects to my phone. No emergency charges, $0 trip fee. Did you hear that? So if something breaks, you're not going to get upcharged and you're not going to pay a trip fee. Price match value guarantee on equipment. They'll give you a free estimate. They're licensed and insured, and they provide a 5-year labor warranty. Everything at the Hunt House works great, and our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, reliable service, I recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's their phone number, 720-851-1691, 720-851-1691, online at bestdenverhvac.com. bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called them. That number again, 720-851-1691. Is it right for the United States to give up trying to bring democracy and education to the little girls of the Middle East?
Or should this just be about capitalism?
Yeah.
Sell, baby.
They want to
buy. Who
They
cares?
want to drive their country into the ground. Their people want it. I mean, that's kind of what we learned from Afghanistan, right? We spent time, treasure, capital, blood. They're trying to westernize that nation, and it is right back into the hands of the Taliban. That's what those people clearly want. So we just try to do deals now. The end of the neocon effort. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Things are changing in the Middle East, and a great piece in the Free Press. By the way, I love this magazine, newspaper. This is Bari Weiss's, after she left the New York Times. She started the Free Press.
Free Press is fantastic. And,
FP.com is where you go for that. But there's a piece in there about how, titled Forget Democracy in the Middle East, Trump wants deals. And details how Trump is very explicitly rejecting the Obama-Bush idea that Western-style liberal democracies are essential to human flourishing in the Middle East, and we need to advance Western-style liberal democracies. And Trump looking at Afghanistan, Iraq, billions of dollars spent, blood, time, treasure, talent spent over there, and it didn't achieve anything. So let's just get down to getting deals done that benefit America. And he even saying, it's not my job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. I believe it's in God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America and to promote the fundamental interests of stability, prosperity, and peace. Now, okay, I understand that. I hold also the belief as a Christian that the proclamation of the gospel and the work of missionaries to bring the good news of Jesus Christ is essential, critical, central focus of our work with our time here on earth. So how should American Christians approach this? You have the state going, we're going to do deals, and that's the role of the state, okay? But it's also the role of the church to confront what is an evil lie, which is Islam. It harms people. It's a terrible religion. It oppresses people and results in the execution, the murder of innocent people. So it needs to be confronted, but you've got deals to deal with that could benefit the United States. So what do you do in the midst of this, Bill?
Yeah. The thing for me is I believe that, again, America's culture is our greatest power, and that is where, and again, soft power, and I believe that's where you export democracy, is you make people try to be more like the Americans, but you can't do that through force, as we found out inside of Afghanistan. It didn't work out so well, but there's kind of this bromide that the U.S. has never gone to war with a country that has a McDonald's, and it's sort of true. That when they have a McDonald's inside the country, they are so close to us economically that we start trading with them and have too much a valued connection to sever that because of some either religious or political disagreements. And that's where I think our largest power is. And the one case that I look at the most is China. And China is still a communist nation, but they have more elements of capitalism than they've ever had in my entire existence on this planet. And if Xi tried to roll back some of these freedoms, he would have some problems internally because of the billionaires that are there that have the ability to create some issues for him on a large number of levels. But more importantly, he's going to face issues because when the economic standard of living of people in China starts to degrade because of those policies, now you get closer to a revolution, because we talked about the revolution having no release valve. So that's where I think we need to go. And it worries me when the majority of our exports to our Middle East partners are defense and our military. It's in some ways, I feel like, and again, me and my bad analogies, but I feel like you're in your garage and you're whittling away these beautiful walking sticks, and you're selling them and people are using them, but the guy next to you is using them to beat the housekeeper. And the person that they employ, but they beat the housekeeper, and you've seen them do that. And then they come over one day, I'm like, hey, I broke my stick. Can I have a new stick? And you're like, absolutely, sir, here's your new stick. You know what they're going to do with it. And again, it's an inelegant analogy and not exact, but I feel like we are giving some people that we don't agree with politically or even religiously the tools to create the system in which they continue to exist. And that bothers me, where I think that giving them some of the tools that we have that encourage freedom are a little bit better. Encouraging them to have more choices of American goods, more choices of American, and having them idealize the American experience. And I think because of that, when you look at the enjoyment of the freedoms and the entertainment options and things that we have, that is a larger way to plant the seeds of democracy than coming in and taking over the country.
What do you
and
do?
Like
and this
that.
is a fair critique.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe we could take it over after the break, though. But a lot of Arab nations do not want our culture, particularly as it relates to LGBTQ and popular Hollywood entertainment. They don't want that.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you influence culture when they specifically reject the cultural products we're creating? I'll ask you that once we get back. But speaking of quality cultural products for your home, think about those appliances in your home, right? The kitchen, laundry room, outdoor cooking area. Well, if you're looking to improve those and you want good quality products done via good trade, well, that's Mountain High Appliance. Family owned and operated for the past 31 years here in Colorado. All right, Mountain High Appliance, they have hundreds of appliances hooked up for you to have a true try before you buy experience. You can go check them out. If you ever go to those big box stores, you know, they've got like a handful of appliances. They don't have that many. This has got a huge selection. Mountain High Appliance, big selection of opportunity for you to go try it out before you buy it. They offer professional delivery and installation so you can shop confidently with the price match guarantee, ensuring you get the best deal, and they have special financing options as well. When it's time for appliances, you got to think Mountain High Appliance, your favorite appliance store. They've got 3 locations in the Denver metro area, or visit them online at mountainhighappliance.com, mountainhighappliance.com, getting all those great quality products from all over the world right here to you. All right, we will continue with this conversation, and I'll get the answer to Bill's question. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking Trump's approach to the Middle East now different. So how do you bring about change there? Obviously, there needs to be change. Islamic regimes are terrible to their people. They suppress religious freedom. I mean, there are fewer Christians in the Middle East than any point, I think, in history right now. The wars in Afghanistan, Iraq didn't work. If you're a little girl born into those areas, you're gonna be sold off at 15 to some guy for some goat, and obviously that's not Saudi Arabia and some of those other places, but Afghanistan, that's the case. It's terrible there, and we spent $8 billion trying to turn that country around.
Yeah, and I had a friend.
So what do you do with culture? And then, Bill, when our culture is promoting LGBTQ stuff, that's not going to change in the Middle East. They're going to outright reject that.
Well, the thing is that I had a friend that texted me off air here during the last segment that reminded me that I actually have been doing in my previous life a little bit, some of what I had been advocating for as far as changing the culture inside of the Middle East. They reminded me that a number of years ago with the format I was working on, I was broadcast on Aramco in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere in the Middle East. I was on the oil fields, and it's an American, it's a state-owned company inside of Saudi Arabia, but it's a partnership with Americans, and they have control over what's broadcast there, but they broadcast on Aramco sites. They broadcast American radio. They had a contract with the company I was working with, and they would take my evening show. I was on the air from 7 to midnight, Monday through Friday, and it was adult contemporary. If you're not familiar with the things inside of radio, that's cozy, okay? So the most beige wallpaper of all music you could possibly do. That's what I was doing, but I was broadcast Monday through Friday on Aramco. However, not live. It was a 7 to 10 day wait. We had to send them the broadcasts on a thumb drive. They would groom them for what they felt was and was not offensive. They may remove things, they may not remove things, and then it was broadcast over. So they did have some control over it, but that was the step. And no, it didn't push some of the LGBTQ stuff, but they had control over it. However, there are Saudi Arabian workers that are on those oil fields, that are working those derricks, that are driving those trucks, that are listening to American music and dumbasses like me. And that's part of the soft power. So that's where I think America needs to be more realistic about how we can grow and how we can affect the change that we want.
So is it the end of the neocons?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
And I think Donald Trump is really the one that has put the stake in that heart because he has transformed. I've seen so many neocons turn around and find a new rebirth underneath Donald Trump and his foreign policy. And so, yeah, I believe the neocons are done. And also because what they thought was going to happen has been proven incorrect. So it's very difficult to come back to the table and say, listen to me this time, guys.
So Trump coming back from the Middle East with big deals. Economically successful, yes, 100%. But a reminder, it is still illegal in Saudi Arabia to build a church, to openly worship, to proselytize, any of that. Still illegal. So there's work to be done. Maybe, to Bill's point, it's going to be a cultural reformation.
We need a little Justin Bieber.
You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is 710 CAN US.
Well, it is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, May 16th, 2025. It's our final hour on air, which means anything can happen. I mean, this is when it gets real rowdy on the Jeff and Bill show. So you're going to want to tune in today. And when we add this next guy to the show, well, then it is absolute chaos. Jimmy Sengenberger joining us. He's got a new piece out titled, When Will Jeffco Schools Confront Their Sex Abuse Scandals? Because as we spoke with Jeffco Kids First yesterday, this is getting out of control. At least 26 recent documented misconduct cases, including a paraprofessional who exchanged 21,900 text messages with a special needs student before sexually assaulting them. And, Bill, I was talking to sales guys yesterday, and they were like, talk about your show. When do you and Bill agree and disagree and stuff? I said, well, Bill and I disagree on a lot of stuff. But when it comes to the abuse of children or government officials lying or corruption, no matter right, left, doesn't matter. That transcends it all. And when I read that statement, a paraprofessional that worked in Jeffco schools exchanging 21,900 text messages with a special needs student before sexually assaulting them, that we had that line the other day, straight to the crane, the creeps to the crane. Yeah. Someone saying that should be our next T-shirt.
Oh, jeez.
That's where I go, string them up. Yeah. You do that to a kid, especially a special needs kid.
Yeah.
Dude, Bill and I are going fisticuffs, man.
And here's the thing, it's absolutely, and this is the part of me where that dark side of me, I'm okay as long as we acknowledge prior to that this is about revenge. Yes, revenge for what you did to the child, revenge for taking advantage of them because they're special needs, revenge for manipulating them that way. Yeah, okay, I can get on board. But again, at least I'm going to be emotionally and intellectually honest enough to name it. To give it a name. Yeah, okay. There are certain cases where, sure. And this is one of them. This is ridiculous. 21,000 messages. And it really gets to the core of my person because a special needs kid. I have one of those in my family. I have friends that have them.
Sweet boy.
It is so
like literally
hard.
The nicest human being you can meet is Max.
Oh, it's just awful. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just, it really gets to me because, I mean, Max was beaten up walking home because he was special needs. He dealt with bullying and so the idea that someone and the teachers were the people that were his safety rock. So the fact that one of them would step in and start manipulating a kid like this, again, it's a child, but it's also a special needs child, and manipulating them for sexual gratification. That's a special kind of evil, a real special depraved kind of evil.
So Jimmy Sengenberger is going to join us. He's a columnist with the Gazette. He's one of my must-reads every week. He's fantastic, one of the very best, providing great coverage. Jimmy Sengenberger, Denver Gazette. He'll be joining us in just a second. But now is time for your final hour of Blake Olson. You want to talk about wild and crazy? Wait till you hear this news and commentary from Blake Olson, because this is when the whiskey really kicks in.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Agreed. TGIF 56 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 72 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Do you agree with that it would be difficult or nearly impossible for the law enforcement institutions to put him in actual jail?
No, they would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population, but it's obviously doable.
You dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy.
The big dummy, 6'8", former FBI Director James Comey, talking about DJT in the past. That doesn't help him out because, you know what? He thinks he's above the law, and people see it, corrupt and dumb. because last night he posted on social media a photo of some seashells. And they were by the shore. And they spelled out 8647. Everybody knows what that means. That means kill President Trump. Probably not a good thing to put that out there if you hate 47 like the greaseball Comey does.
A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again.
That's
and all
right.
This. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he doesn't.
Well, he
wasn't
apologized.
but
Look,
he
apologized.
What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a
Jailing.
position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this, I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop.
Yes.
He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision.
And does the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, think that the big dummy should be in jail?
I do. Any other person with a position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be.
Right.
I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
And this is how Comey used to project against 47.
The FBI is fighting a fire of racist violence, and with words like that, the president is using a fire hose to spray gasoline on that fire. Spraying gasoline with a fire hose, it creates a dangerous blaze for all of us, not just people of color, but for every community in America that has these thugs and criminals have a presence there ought to worry about this, and the president of the United States should be charged with tamping it down, not letting it free.
You big dummy.
All right, stay tuned to that. AG Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel investigating the Comey post. Patel also making news today when he went on Fox News this morning.
But the FBI is 38,000 when we're fully manned, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus-up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. And that's what we're doing in the next 3, 6, 9 months. We're going to do that hard. And, you know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce.
Wow. Interesting. All right, there will be a status hearing for Kilmore Abrego Garcia in federal court today. The Supreme Court has ordered the administration to facilitate his return, but the DOJ invoked state secrets as reason for keeping him off U.S. soil. Sean Diddy Combs. Man, there's so much stuff going on. Sex crimes trial is back underway in New York. This is getting crazy. This morning, one of the sex slaves dropping Obama's name, Hillary Clinton's name. Cross-examination of his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is expected to wrap today. Combs' lawyers on Thursday grilled Ventura about text messages with the rapper. The Nuggets were facing elimination last night in the second round of the playoffs.
Strother, of course, the Julian Strother game.
And Strother came off the bench, had 15 points. Jamal Murray, he was sick and still scored 25. Jokic with 27. 119-104. Nuggets win it. Game 7 Sunday in Oklahoma City. All right, 55 in Westminster, 54 in Centennial, 56 in Denver. Jeff and Billy
Blake,
continue.
before you
yes,
go,
sir.
I've got some audio for you to kick you into Friday, okay? Came across this. Now, this was originally from April 1st. This is up in your neck of the woods. This is Fort Collins City Council meeting advertisement, okay? They're calling people to attend the Fort Collins City Council. This is perfect to kick off your Friday. Here we go.
Tuesday in the Fort Collins Council chambers. We bring you an agenda so packed with action. You'll pay nothing for your free seat, but you'll only need the edge. This council meeting has everything. Minutes to approve. Library board reappointments. What about the charter? We're gonna modernize it. Watch this elected group council it out in chambers. 6 p.m. April 1st. Council chambers at City Hall, 300 LaPorte Avenue. Attend in person or watch online. You'd be a fool to miss it. This ad is silly, but seriously, you should tune in.
And meanwhile, on the video, there's like a little toy monster truck driving all over the place, and they added like fire and sparks to it and all this stuff.
Do you know what monster truck that is, Jeff?
It's the Gravedigger.
Yes, it's the Gravedigger. But they, of course, covered up the sides of it because they don't want copyright infringement issues.
So that was an actual post from Fort Collins City Council.
That's great.
My favorite one is they've got an intersection in Fort Collins. This is my favorite shot of the entire thing. Because, again, they're self-imposing, like big explosions and fake sparks come out of the truck, and they've got it running over things and jumping over ramps. But my favorite shot is it's ground level. Typical, four-way intersection with the stoplights, and here come two cars that go by. Vroom, vroom. And then here comes a little tiny, a remote control Gravedigger. Bzzz, right behind them. The visual's absolutely hilarious.
I guarantee you that was the most best attended.
Yeah.
Right.
City council meeting of the year.
Oh yeah,
and that's
great.
The seats are free, but you only need the edge.
Yes.
Oh, listen.
Yes.
And you
Homage
know
to The Simpsons. That's fantastic.
You guys may have done this. I'm not sure, but when I was in high school and college, I worked for the local cable access channel, and I used to do city council meetings. And, we had the robotic cameras, and I would sit through those things. Oh, my God. So listening to that.
That's why I would never be an elected official. I have no desire to sit through committee meetings.
No.
Oh, those are brutal, especially when you're young. I learned a lot. But, oh, my God. I mean, those things would go 4.5 hours.
Yep.
I mean, just on and on.
How about a fence line?
Oh,
yes.
I hate that. I have this personal thing inside of me, and again, understanding that I'm also contradictory, but I have these problems with meetings. I really dislike meetings at their core, and here's the reason why. Okay, let's see if everybody agrees. Because when you go to a meeting, when we're at the end of that meeting, all of us have more work to do, but we also have not been able to do any work for the previous hour and a half or 2 hours. So now we're behind on the stuff we should do, and now we have more work to do. That's crap.
That's
ridiculous.
Oh,
great point.
It used to drive me nuts.
That's why I hate them. Yeah.
And then the next meeting and say, well, why didn't that get done? Well, partially because we had a meeting the last time when we had something scheduled and we couldn't do it because we had the meeting.
Oh, yeah. In fact,
and us complaining about meetings is almost like being in a meeting. So
yeah, it is. It is. In fact, when I was working, when I was working at what is Entercom, now Odyssey. So formerly Odyssey was known as Entercom. When I was working over there, the line internally in the company was Entercom. It's German for meeting. It seems like that's
meanwhile,
what we're doing most of the time.
Jimmy is sitting on Zoom going, when are they going to get to me?
Yeah. It's like, I'm sitting in a meeting here. It's the same thing.
Jimmy.
The hell? These clowns get to me.
Pull out your harmonica, Jimmy.
There we
Let's
go.
Let's get it go. All right, guys, have a great weekend and say hello to Jimmy. Blake Olson. There we go. I got here one more time. News Talk 710 KNUS.
A quiet day along the Front Range will make the low to mid-70s and partly cloudy, mid to upper 40s tonight. 70s on Saturday with not many, but Saturday afternoon and evening, a few widely scattered thunderstorms possible. Lower 70s Sunday with thunderstorm chances much higher. Sunday afternoon and evening and Sunday night. Highs low 70s, 40s Sunday night, cooler Monday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 60s. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, he's one of my must-reads every single week on the Gazette. Incredibly talented columnist there. Jimmy Sengenberger is joining the show. You remember the name and the voice from 710 KNUS, many years here, now with the Denver Gazette, doing great work. Yesterday we talked with Lindsay Dotko of Jeffco Kids First about the latest case of this school psychologist that had been arrested for sexually assaulting a student on campus under the age of 15, also soliciting child prostitution, drug possession with the intent to manufacture and distribute. And you're sitting there going, what in the world is going on with this school psychologist? And it just seems like every day there's a new story coming out of Jeffco. And in fact, Lindsay Dotko pointed out, and Jimmy does in his article here, you're now dealing with 26 recent misconduct cases, including one that's a paraprofessional who exchanged 21,900 texts with a special needs student before sexually assaulting them. A family liaison and coach who conducted invasive, quote, exams on middle schoolers. And then the headline-making chief of schools, David Weiss, who was terminated during a child pornography investigation before dying by suicide. Jimmy does a really good job of pulling this all together. He joins us now. Jimmy, this is just one of those articles that you read where you just go, there's got to be a change. And I asked,
you're like, how does this keep happening?
I asked Lindsay yesterday, does Tracy Dorland, superintendent of Jeffco, need to resign? And she said, yes, but we got to deal with the school board as well. Thank you, brother, for joining the show, and thank you for covering this in the Gazette.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for the hard work.
Yeah, you talk about the challenge of reading it. There's also the challenge of writing this when you have so many different aspects to consider and include in this saga of what's happening in Jeffco. It's very different from, I know we'll also talk a little bit about Denver Public Schools, the chaos there, but both of these school districts, they're the two largest in the state, and there is a rot that runs deep in both of them. And I think the biggest problem is a lack of consideration for parents and for students and for teachers. Just saying people don't matter. And that's the crux of it. People don't matter. If they did, you'd be doing things differently in both of these school districts, guys.
That voice that you hear is Jimmy Sengenberger. And Jimmy, I think that's the case. You know, the parents showing up at these school board meetings and raising concerns, yes, has become politicized, right? Especially through COVID, through a lot of the LGBTQ stuff. So parents are showing up angry at the direction of their schools. And it seems like these school boards, which Jeffco, for instance, entirely dominated by progressives. I'm imagining that Denver Public Schools is the same way. They see parents show up. Parents are frustrated. Their concerns are right, but they're just dismissing them as political activists that they don't need to listen to. Is that your sense?
In some cases, it's political activists. Denver is a little bit different because a lot of it has to do with concerns that are specifically centered on academic failures and on school safety issues of a different sort. We've had violence and all sorts of disciplinary issues and school shootings in Denver, and it's sort of like a we know better than you attitude, which frankly I think does apply in Jeffco too. It's this notion that the people are the people, okay, but we're elected or we are hired to do the job, and so just let us figure it out. But the problem is that in Jeffco, for example, they're not figuring it out. That's why you can see the headline for today's investigative column is, when will Jeffco schools confront sex abuse? And that is a very intentional sort of headline, and the questions posed in the piece are very intentional because they aren't doing that. We are now on something of the order of like 30 cases. That 26 number was weeks ago, before this psychologist and one or two other incidents that have come out, and yet they keep happening. What is going on in Jeffco schools? Well, the answer to that should be coming from leadership, but it is not, because I don't think they are taking this seriously, which is to the detriment of literally everybody in the district, including kids who are supposed to be protected by the school district and its officials.
And Jimmy, you got the case of the Columbine teacher that's now living with a student in California, right? So, I mean, you have that controversy. And Pooter settling for $16 million. It seems to be spreading across the state. And I brought this up with Lindsay yesterday, that the hardest pressure coming on the school board right now and the superintendents are coming from parents having to do their own investigations. Or in this case, a journalist having to do their own investigations. That it doesn't, I mean, have you heard from Jeffco that they're looking into these problems within their schools, case after case after case seeming to pop up? Has Lindsay come out saying, we've had enough of this? I'm diving in. We're going to deal with this. I'm going to investigate it. Have you heard that type of leadership?
Yeah. I mean, for example, they have at least claimed that they're getting rid of this trusted adult concept from policy. And trusted adult, of course, is this notion that we want to set up an opportunity for our teachers and staff to tell students, I'm a trusted adult, come to me with your problems or issues. But of course, that promotes what I call a culture of secrecy, because you have these things that are happening or coming up behind closed doors, whether it has to do with gender identity questions or things that are worse. Like, for example, here's a school psychologist with the worst kinds of accusations being placed by police, arrested, including soliciting child prostitution. You can't make this stuff up. And that's a person who, guys, is supposed to be engaging one-on-one with students more privately, in the sense that you're a psychologist trying to work through different issues, and yet using the position. Well, okay, so you're saying you're getting rid of trusted adult. How have you actually done that? What steps have you taken? And does that include activities that have been related to this? Does it have to do with the curriculum? Have you cleared that out? Because there are pieces of curriculum that include trusted adult. The list goes on, and yet we don't have any sort of clarity. And then you bring up Lindsay Dadko and the great work that she and Jeffco Kids First are doing at really spotlighting these issues. When they are sort of challenged by the school district to provide a breakdown of the 26 cases, and they offer it, the district doesn't take them up on it and have any willingness to engage. It's the same kind of hubris again in Denver public schools, where you have parents that have been rising up now more so about academics and the total failure that we're seeing. Denver has not recovered the learning loss from COVID, whereas even Jeffco has slightly recovered, ever so slightly recovered learning loss. Denver hasn't, and Denver has ongoing concerns about discipline and school safety of a different sort. There's a parent safety advocacy group that formed years ago that is just being sort of dismissed by most on the school board. And to make the hubris worse there, they just extended for 2 additional years with more protections for his job, the superintendent, Dr. Alex Marrero's contract that's worth over $346,000 a year. I mean, what is going on with the mindset of these school districts, if not hubris, if not arrogance, condescension?
Wow, that's Jimmy Sengenberger bringing the fire this morning on the Jeff and Bill Show. Jimmy,
you know it.
I mean, it's to your point about these administrators. When I go down, and I went down to the teachers' protest to talk to folks when they were protesting the budget cuts, I'd ask them about administrative bloat, administrative cost. To this point, the superintendent of Denver Public Schools, I mean, that's quite a salary. $346,000 to run DPS when only 20% of middle school students are reading at their grade level, performing at math. So that's an 80% fail rate. An 80% fail rate, and you get to pull in a $346,000 salary bill. We are in the wrong business. But even the teachers admit, the money's not going to the classrooms. The monies are going to these administrators. And by all accounts, whether you're Jeffco or Denver, it's failing. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, when I look at the stats in Denver, roughly 60% of grades 3 through 8 students aren't proficient in English, nearly 70% lag in math. You look at the racial breakdown, black and brown students, it's significantly worse. They talk a big game about equity in Denver public schools, and yet you have a quarter or less of kids that are black students in DPS that can read at grade level, and 16 or 17% that can do math at grade level. And that's not even talking about the high schoolers. Nearly half of high schoolers fall short on the PSAT and the SAT in English when you put them together. 2/3 miss the mark in math, and yet the district has the audacity to celebrate a 79% graduation rate as it is some historic milestone. And I look at it, Jeff and Bill, and I say, okay, if you are graduating with a diploma but you don't know the skills that you need to succeed moving forward, that you aren't able to do English and math at grade level when you graduate, what the hell good is a diploma from Denver Public Schools? And get this, they are now even in the business at their Emily Griffith Technical College, or whatever they call it, of now giving out college degrees, associate's degrees in Denver Public Schools at a district that can't even provide a quality education for their students in K through 12 in their basic offerings that they're supposed to provide. And then you have 5 of the 7 school board members who not only extend this guy's contract well before it was time necessary to do so, but also they just put new metrics for performance into place in January that, by the way, Superintendent Marrero crafted himself. And they don't consider those metrics until October, meaning they extended his contract this month at the very beginning of May without even reviewing the performance that won't come until October for a contract that isn't set to renew until next June.
Jimmy, there's not much that leaves me speechless. I can't believe that. I mean, they haven't even looked at his deliverables and the stats that he's supposed to meet, and they renewed his contract.
But to be fair, just like Jimmy outlined, meeting the deliverables of being able to read what's on the page or do the math doesn't matter inside the district. So at the core, the district is doing the same thing. They're just going to make sure that as long as the superintendent is trying hard enough, okay. As long as you tried.
I literally say in the column, you just can't make this up.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
I don't know what to say at this point. You guys know how I feel about this, about government-run schools, that it's got to end. I mean, and you got to voucherize and allow parents to send these kids to where they want, private Christian if they want, Jewish if they want, I don't care, charter schools. But this can't continue. This is a systemic failure. What else in our country has got such a failure rate? And we continue to pump money into it at this rate. How in the world do you get a $346,000 salary with an 80% fail rate?
I have one answer to that. The college level of education, where we're talking post-secondary education.
Yes.
That's the other area where you see this money being poured in. And the piece about that, too, is that the student loan crisis, as you guys know, I've been doing work on this for like a decade when it comes to higher education costs, is because of the all-knowing, all-powerful federal government giving all sorts of student loans and grants to such a profligate degree that even the New York Federal Reserve had a term for it, the pass-through effect on education. It's spurring the cost of college to rise more and more. And these administrators, again, administrative bloat at the college level is one of the big problems, and they are so much of the root. We talk a lot about the bias of professors, but it is the administrators that set the tone and so much more for what happens at campuses, which is how you can see anti-Semitism, Jew hatred run rampant on these colleges and universities to the extent that they are. I mean, this just shows you the problem that you have when you separate the decision makers for the kids or the students in their day-to-day lives, the parents, or in the case of college kids, the students in concert with the parents and how they work out their relationship, with the decision makers for the district that have taken it upon themselves, or the universities, to be the all-knowing, all-deciders above those. Set aside, who cares about the parents? We're going to do what we think is best.
Well, and Jimmy, there was a small, little, brief moment of time in Jefferson County where some conservatives got control of the school board, and I know this because John Newkirk is a close personal friend. John was telling me at those points he had to have armed police outside of his house because the radical progressive activists were so crazy that the idea that there were a handful of conservatives on the school board. I mean, anytime that you even have just a little bit of conservative influence in our government-run education system, the unions, the radical leftist activists go nuts. They recalled these folks in an effort to get them out. And now Jeffco completely dominated by pro-union, leftist, progressive activists. And this is what you get. And, I mean, I'll ask you, Jimmy, do you think that the superintendent of Jeffco Schools, Tracy Dorland, needs to resign?
I would say yes, but the problem is, who the heck are they going to find to replace her if they don't have a school board that even gives a damn about what's happening in the school district? It's the similar thing over in Denver Public Schools. There was a big thing a couple of years ago, back in 2023, when they flipped 3 seats on the board. My good buddy, best pal Tay Anderson, decided not to run again because a 9% approval rating isn't a great start to a campaign. And so he was replaced by one of only two of the 3 who've actually tried to do some stuff good, like vote against Marrero's contract extension in DPS. That would be John Youngquist, and then there's Kimberly Sia. Marlene De La Rosa, unfortunately, has been a real disappointment. She was elected in that. But in that case, even if she was on board with the reforms and things that need to be changed in DPS to a little degree, you would still not have a majority of that school board, which means whether they had Marrero or somebody else, if you're in that school board and you are not providing the kinds of guidance that is necessary for the superintendent to understand what's actually expected for the district when it comes to school safety, addressing sex abuse or academics, and the list goes on for the failures in both of these districts, then you almost have to ask, how good is it going to be? How much better will it be to change the head of the snake, so to speak, as opposed to replacing the snake and putting somebody else in the position of leadership in that, whatever the position, any kind of organization. If you have the board that's not providing that guidance to the leadership, what does that mean for the long or even short term for how that leader is going to operate?
It's a good question. That voice, you recognize it. That is the golden tones of Jimmy Sengenberger, longtime host here on KNUS, now fantastic investigative reporter at the Gazette, has done an amazing look into what's going on both in Jeffco and DPS schools, because we have layers and layers of abuse and things going wrong with kids and teachers doing things they shouldn't, and it seems to wind its way all up to the top. Now, Jimmy, you're functioning now as an investigative reporter. I'm certain you've reached out to both school districts and asked the basic question: is this a failure of leadership? Is this a failure of vetting your candidates that seem to be, like in Jeffco, getting in there and taking advantage of the students? Is this a failure of the district culture for allowing this? Or is this more of a failure of security, allowing these teachers and everybody else too much access to the kids? Something along here is a failure. When you reach out to the districts, what has their response been, if they've even responded at all?
Yeah, well, I don't normally get response, interestingly, from Jeffco Public Schools, Denver Public
color my
Schools.
face surprised.
I mean, yeah. Denver will get back, but they won't necessarily get back with an answer that sort of fits what you were asking or what have you. I mean, these school districts, there is a hubris. I mean, here's something really interesting. Apparently, and my understanding now, I didn't realize this, is that this is in violation of state statute. But in Denver public schools, if you're a school board member and you want access to particular data, you need 2 other school board members to join you in requesting it. 3 school board members need to request a piece of data, whereas, as I now understand it, the law says a school board member, singularly, as an elected official, is entitled to go out and request specific information and get that information, which is what you think would be sensible, the way that it should be. Why in the world is a school board member being denied easy access to data on disciplinary issues, academics, what have you, unless he gets 2 other school board members to join him in that effort? It is easier in some respects, and it's difficult to get an Open Record Act request to be accepted, but still, it is easier for you to do that in the media and get access to informational data than it is for a school board member by himself.
Wow. That's Jimmy Sengenberger, writer for the Gazette, that has done great investigative work on issues going on in Jeffco and DPS. 26 recent cases of abuse in Jeffco alone. You can check out his piece that just dropped today. Go to the Gazette and check it out. Also, former talk show host here at KNUS. We are so happy that he has decided to come home for a brief little bit. Earlier, Jimmy, you talked about the attitude of these districts of, we know better than you. How you outlined that problem in DPS, where you need to get 2 other school board members to join in with you with a simple inquiry about what is happening inside the school district, is a crystallization of that we know better than you attitude. That sharing the information, that simply asking, does this exist, isn't enough. Here's the odd thing. I bet in DPS, if a kid walked into one of the school libraries, they didn't have to get 2 other kids to agree with them that they should check out that book. That kid's looking for information.
It's all about burying it.
Yeah,
it's all about burying it.
It's
guys.
all about preventing the access to the information.
And this is what Lindsay said yesterday. It's like it takes a whole bunch of moms to go dig up core requests to get any of this information.
You need to be persistent in order to get what you want. One of the brilliant things is that Lindsay and Jeffco Kids First, they really have figured out how to get information using the Open Records Act here in Colorado. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially if you are not in the media, because the laws have been tightening, as we know, at the legislature, so that it's more and more difficult to force transparency, and that is especially so if you aren't in the press, which already can have a difficult time with redactions or delays or what have you. I mean, some of the stories that I've got, I'm sure Lindsay's got a heck of a lot more just because of being a parent, being somebody outside of that media sphere, and yet things that they have gotten access to as far as information and how to understand how to work that system, so to speak, to provide greater transparency is tremendous. And it is beyond disturbing what's happening here. And I think it does come down to this, again, the school boards are not holding their district leadership accountable for their failures. So those district leaders say, well, la-di-da-di-da, we can just continue with things as we've been doing because we like how they are. And yet...
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Go ahead, please.
No,
I'm out of words now. It's my turn to be speechless.
Well, I mean, so we normally end the show with cowboy poetry, and Jeff Hildebrand, he's out today, and so we saunter into the weekend just nice and relaxed and ready to go work on the ranch. Dude,
I'm so mad.
Dude, oh my gosh, dude, Jimmy, you have lit a fire. I pray to God that this article, your work, by the way, follow him on X at Seng Center, lights a fire. Because, look, we got school board elections coming up. It's the one thing on the ballot this fall. You can change things, and it's time to throw these bums out. Jimmy Sengenberger exposing so much of the rot taking place in our government-run schools. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Keep up the hard work. Thank you. And the door is open anytime. We appreciate all the hard work. And to borrow a phrase from a friend of the show, Dan Kaplis, if you can't see him make him see the light, help him feel the heat. Help him feel the heat.
Amen to that, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, brothers.
Appreciate
All
you.
right. Speaking of problems, crime is a real issue here in Colorado. And if you run a business, you know how worried you are about what a break-in could do to shut your business down. That's why we've partnered with Alarm Detection Systems to provide the highest level of service and expertise for you. Think about all the time you could be saving if you just had one source for your cameras, key card access, fire and intrusion systems. Think about some of their offers here, okay? They offer expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same-day or next-day service based upon your request, because they know downtime's not an option for you. They got dedicated teams for your cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business will stay protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. They're trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools. Their security experts will review your system for free. Go to adsalarm.com to schedule your appointment today. adsalarm.com, alarm detection systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses. adsalarm.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's been an absolutely fire show today. Did
Yes,
former
it has.
FBI Director James Comey call for the assassination of Donald Trump? Well, we discussed political rhetoric and the use of that for
Maybe he was
violence.
just selling she-shells.
Maybe.
Maybe he's just doing that. It's a new hobby.
So we talked about that in the beginning part of the show. Trump is back from the Middle East. Forget democracy. Trump wants deals in the Middle East. What did you think about his trip? We discussed that as well. Plus, Jimmy Sengenberger and what he's discovered in Jeffco and Denver Public Schools is just shocking. So if you missed any of the show, go to 710KNUS to download the podcast there. Bill, it is so fun because I hear all the time people listening to the show, right, left, center. They all love to be a part of the conversation. Yeah. And as we wrap up the week, a special thank you to all the listeners out there who made this week just a ton of fun debate. Even Tony.
We appreciate
Tony,
all of you.
You took my blood pressure to another level, but we still love you. And
because
I've walked around the studio a little bit to calm down.
If y'all aren't here with us doing the text messages and the phone calls and everything else on social media, then Jeff and I are just out on the corner, and we're just like the weird guy yelling at the clouds, which, again, might be me sometimes as well. But we also have a chance for you to celebrate a different type of a club. You might have remembered a number of months ago, we talked about how there is a certain television broadcast, a news broadcast in the afternoon, early evening that has a lot of fans because they do things different. They always like to tell you, what's coming up next. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So what we've done.
Bart's People.
Yeah, it is.
If you've
It's a lot
ever
like
watched
Bart's
The
People.
Simpsons.
Yes, it is.
That's all Kyle is, really.
Yeah, so when we poked fun at that particular broadcast hosted by Kyle Clark, a lot of his fans got a little angry. They got a little sideways, and they would just kind of pile on. And so we figured with such a large fan base, we felt they needed a nickname. That it's not right to have a celebrity local that is celebrated so strongly and followed by so many without having a name for the group. Taylor Swift has her Swifties. Justin Bieber has his Beliebers. We've got Jimmy Buffett had the Parrot Heads. So we gotta find a nickname. You all, our audience, voted for Kyle's Karens. So it took us a little while, but we now have Kyle's Karens t-shirts for you. You can be part of the club or proudly declare that you are not one of Kyle's Karens. All you got to do, visit us at kyleskarens.com. kyleskarens.com. No apostrophes. Just spell it all one word, and you can choose. Do you want to be part of the membership club, celebrating the avocado toast and the virtue signaling, or do you prefer your news with facts, not feelings? We have a t-shirt for you and appropriately colored, red or blue. $25 a piece. All you got to do, join us at kyleskarens.com, and it's limited edition. 3-week run from today. 3 weeks from today, shop is taken down, and those shirts will never be printed again. They are destroying the proofs. We can't go back in time. This is the one shot you have to declare your love.
Get your order in before any legal comes our way.
Too. Yes. So the sooner you order, the more chances you had actually getting your shirts. Just saying.
Grew up definitely knowing it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
That's like my rule.
Hey, have a great weekend. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are 710 KNUS. We'll see you Monday.